The crystalline forests of Veridia Prime were every bit as treacherous as the warnings claimed. Shards of luminous flora grew like trees, casting 1,000 shifting rainbows through the dense ion-charged mist. It was perfect. Captain Kael Vance had made his name salvaging artifacts from places most pilots wouldn't dare to fly. His heavily modified skimmer, the Dust Devil, wove through the crystal spires with the confidence of a seasoned predator. Its polarized hull plating deflected gleaming branches that would have shattered a standard craft. Kael tightened his grip on the flight stick, the skimmer's engine a familiar, reassuring growl beneath him. It was an extension of his own will, quick, tough, and fiercely independent, unlike most people he'd known. Warning: unidentified biosignatures detected. Proximity: 40 meters, announced the ship's AI, Odin, its synthesized voice perfectly level and devoid of concern. Thanks, Odin. Keep the unsolicited updates coming, Kael muttered, running a gloved hand over his unshaven jaw. The recycled air in his helmet always smelled faintly of ozone and old coffee. The crystal spires suddenly gave way to a perfectly circular clearing. Kael's instincts screamed, and he slowed the skimmer to a near-silent hover. An unexpected silence in a place like this always preceded chaos. He was right. A humanoid figure stood motionless in the center of the clearing, her skin a deep luminous azure that seemed to drink in the ambient light. Her hair was a cascade of iridescent feather-like filaments that shifted from silver to teal. Crystalline patterns on her forehead and cheekbones pulsed with a soft internal light. Her wide amethyst eyes were fixed on something in the forest filled with a primal terror. A moment later, two massive creatures burst from the crystalline undergrowth. They were chitin hounds, bioengineered trackers of the Scourge Imperium. Each was the size of a ground car, their exoskeletons a nightmarish landscape of jagged plates and their mandibles clicking with predatory hunger. Their multifaceted eyes locked onto the woman and they charged. Hell's bells, Kael breathed, slamming the throttle forward. He didn't think. He acted. The Dust Devil shot into the clearing, kicking up a cloud of glittering dust as Kael brought it alongside the woman. Need a lift? He yelled over the engine's roar, extending his hand. For a split second, she hesitated, those alien amethyst eyes analyzing him with a sharpness that cut through her fear. The ground vibrated with the thunder of the charging hounds, and her decision was made. Her hand, cool, slender, and possessing an extra joint in each finger, gripped his. Kael hauled her onto the skimmer behind him, her arms wrapped around his waist with a desperate, surprising strength, her body a solid, trembling presence against his back. "Hold on," he shouted, twisting the throttle. The skimmer surged forward just as the first hound snapped its mandibles where they had been, the sound like shears cutting through sheet metal. Kael weaved the skimmer through the crystal spires, the woman's grip tightening with every gut-wrenching turn. The chitin hounds were unnervingly fast, their movements a blur of insectoid fury as their hungry clicks echoed through the forest. "They are gaining," the woman shouted, her voice a strange, melodic harmony even laced with fear. "Not for much longer," Kael gritted out, spotting a deep chasm ahead. He pushed the skimmer to its absolute limit. "When I bank, follow my lead." The chasm rushed toward them, a 20-meter gap that fell away into a misty abyss. "Now," Kael yelled, banking hard to the left as he hit a natural crystalline ramp. The woman moved with him as if they were one, her weight perfectly distributed. The skimmer soared across the gap, landing with a bone-jarring impact on the other side. Kael fought the controls, the woman's arms a vice around his torso. Behind them, one hound screeched to a halt at the edge. The other, driven by bloodlust, attempted the jump. It fell short, its claws scraping uselessly at the edge before it plummeted into the mists with a final enraged shriek. Kael didn't ease off the throttle until they were miles away. In a quiet grove where the light was softer, he finally brought the Dust Devil to a stop. "You all right back there?" he asked, turning his head. The woman slowly unwound her arms from his waist, and an unexpected sense of loss pricked at Kael. She dismounted with a fluid grace that belied the terror of the last few minutes. "I am uninjured," she said, her words precise and formal. "You have my gratitude. You saved my life." Up close, the crystalline patterns on her skin were even more intricate, seeming to shift and flow beneath her skin. Her dark blue flight suit, though torn and smudged, was clearly of a design far beyond common commercial tech. "Kael Vance," he said, extending his hand in a more formal gesture of greeting. "Captain of the Stardust Drifter. That's my main ship. This is just the runabout." She looked at his offered hand, then mirrored the gesture. "I am Lyra of Xylos, formerly of the star vessel Celestial Concord." Her hand was cool and firm in his. "I am in your debt, Captain Vance." "Just Kael is fine," he replied, realizing he'd been holding her hand a moment too long. He let go. "So, Lyra of Xylos. Any particular reason a pair of Scourge chitin hounds were trying to make you their afternoon snack?" Her expression hardened and her amethyst eyes flashed. "It is a complex matter," she said, her gaze darting to the woods. "And this is not a secure place for discussion. Those creatures, they were not hunting for food." Kael raised an eyebrow. "No? Then what were they hunting?" Lyra touched the glowing crystals on her forehead. For a second they pulsed brightly. "They were hunting me," she said, "and they will not be the only ones." Lyra's gaze swept the surrounding forest before she moved a step closer to Kael. The proximity sent a low-frequency hum through his bones. Her scent was alien and intoxicating like night-blooming flowers and ozone. "I require your assistance, Captain," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. She reached into a hidden pocket of her flight suit and produced a small, crystalline object. It fit in her palm, shaped like a multifaceted prism that seemed to hold a starfield within it. Swirls of deep blues and purples moved beneath its surface. "This is the Genesis Shard," Lyra explained, "an artifact of immense significance to my people. The Scourge Imperium seized it a generation ago, using its power to enforce their rule over my homeworld." Kael's eyebrow went up. "And you liberated it." A ghost of a smile touched her blue lips. "I did. I am part of the Xylan Concordance, a resistance movement. They await my arrival at a sanctuary nebula." She paused. "The reward for its safe delivery would be substantial, enough to clear any lingering debts a freelance captain might have." Kael let out a short, wry laugh. "Is it that obvious?" "Your skimmer has character," she replied, her eyes glinting. "And your piloting skills are formidable." The way she said formidable made Kael's pulse jump. He cleared his throat. "Those hounds, sent by the Scourge," Lyra nodded, tucking the shard away. "Bioengineered trackers. They follow the shard's energy signature. There will be more. The Scourge does not relinquish what it has stolen." Kael ran a hand through his hair, the gears turning in his head. Helping her meant putting the Scourge Imperium on his list of enemies, which was generally a list you wanted to keep empty. But the reward was a siren song. And then there was Lyra herself. Something about her defiance made him want to choose her side, Empire be damned. "My ship's parked 10 clicks north," he said at last. "If we book it, we can be off-world before the next patrol cycle." Relief flooded Lyra's features. "Thank you, Kael." She stepped closer still, placing a hand on his chest over his flight jacket. "My people have a saying, a debt of life is a bond of spirit. I am now bound to you." Heat crept up Kael's neck. "That's, not really necessary. Your human customs differ?" She tilted her head, those amethyst eyes studying him with an intensity that dried his mouth. "Let's just say we have a slightly longer courtship period," Kael managed. "Not that I'm complaining about the direction this is heading." A genuine smile bloomed on Lyra's face, and it was breathtaking. "I have studied your species. So young, yet so chaotic, so driven." Her fingers traced the zipper on his jacket. "So passionate," Kael swallowed. "We have our moments." The skimmer's proximity alarm chirped, shattering the moment. Kael checked the display. Movement. 2 clicks and closing. He swung his leg over the skimmer. "Time to move." Lyra got on behind him, her arms wrapping around his waist. This time Kael was acutely aware of her body against his, of her breath against the back of his neck. "Hold tight," he said, gunning the engine. They blasted through the forest, Kael pushing the skimmer harder than ever. Lyra held on, her cheek resting against his shoulder blade. Every turn, every dip, pressed them together in a way that made concentrating on the crystal spires exceedingly difficult. "Your respiration and pulse have quickened," Lyra observed, her lips near his ear. "Is it the thrill of danger or my proximity?" Kael nearly flew them into a shard. "Little of column A, little of column B," he admitted with a wry grin. "You're not exactly a distraction-free passenger. Would you prefer I adjusted my position?" she asked, her tone pure innocence, but her hand slid an inch lower on his stomach. "Careful," Kael warned, his voice a low growl. You make us crash and your shard becomes Scourge property. Lyra's laugh was like the chime of crystal bells. You will not crash. I have seen the capability of your hands. The double meaning hit him square in the chest. This woman was dangerous, and it had nothing to do with the Empire chasing her. They broke from the forest into a rocky canyon. In the distance, his ship, the Stardust Drifter, rested on a plateau. It wasn't a new ship, but it was his. There she is, Kael said with a swell of pride. Not the prettiest girl at the dance, but she'll outrun anything the Scourge has in system. Lyra's arms tightened. She is perfect, she murmured. Like her captain. As they neared, Kael's instincts screamed again. Something was wrong. He cut the engine, coasting to a silent stop behind a massive rock outcropping. What is it? Lyra whispered. Kael pointed. A sleek insectoid vessel was parked 50 meters from the Drifter. Its chitinous black hull seemed to devour the light. Scourge scout ship, he muttered. They're fast. Lyra's body went rigid. They must have triangulated the shard's energy. Can you turn it off? It cannot be turned off, she said. It resonates with life. It can only be shielded. Kael scanned the area. 2 Scourge soldiers, tall and menacing in their plated armor, patrolled near his ship. There's a maintenance hatch on the ship's underbelly, he said. It's a tight squeeze, but it'll get us inside unseen. They ditched the skimmer and moved on foot, using the canyon's shadows for cover. Kael led. Lyra so close behind he could feel her body heat. Each time they paused, her presence was a distracting electric field at his back. They reached the landing strut. There, Kael pointed to a small panel. He keyed in the bypass and the hatch popped open. The tunnel beyond was black and narrow. I'll go first. Stay right on me. The crawl was tight, the cold metal pressing in on all sides. Kael was hyper-aware of Lyra directly behind him, her soft grunts of effort sending his thoughts in unhelpful directions. After an eternity, they reached a vertical shaft with a service ladder. Up we go, he whispered. Bridge is 2 levels up. As they climbed, he glanced down. Lyra's amethyst eyes met his, her expression unreadable in the dark. The intensity of her gaze made the confined space feel even smaller. Finally, they reached the bridge access panel. Kael pressed his palm to the scanner, and the panel slid open, allowing them to tumble out onto the command deck. Welcome back, Captain, Odin's dry voice announced as the lights came up. I see you have acquired a stray. How delightfully predictable. Odin stowed the commentary. Kael sighed, helping Lyra up. This is Lyra. Lyra, this is Odin. He's programmed for maximum cynicism. I am programmed for maximum operational efficiency, Odin corrected. A state frequently compromised by your impulsive decision-making. Speaking of which, 2 Scourge soldiers are currently attempting to slice your cargo bay door. Shall I engage defensive countermeasures? No, stealth launch, Kael ordered, dropping into the pilot's seat. Get us out of the atmosphere before they can sound the alarm, as you command. I calculate a 92.7% probability that this action will result in our fiery demise or capture. Your AI is a pessimist, Lyra observed. I am a realist, Odin corrected, and I am concerned about the artifact you are carrying. Its energy signature is unstable and unlike anything in my databanks. You can sense it? Lyra asked, her hand going to her pocket. Of course. And so can the Scourge. Captain, I strongly advise, just get us flying, Odin. Kael cut him off, his fingers flying across the console. The Drifter hummed to life, its systems online but masked. In my culture, Lyra said, moving to stand by his chair, one who saves a life becomes bonded to them. A soul weave. It is a sacred joining of spirits. Her fingers brushed his shoulder. Such a bond is traditionally sealed through a physical and psychic communion. Kael's hands froze on the controls. A communion? Our life energies flow between us, strengthening both, she confirmed, her eyes locking with his. Captain, Odin interjected. We are prepared for launch. Also, for the record, interspecies biological commingling frequently results in unforeseen and often hazardous side effects. Nobody asked you, Odin. Kael snapped, his face flushing. Lyra's crystal chime laugh filled the bridge. Your AI is very protective. He's a pain in my ass, Kael muttered, but a smile touched his lips. Launch initiated, Odin announced. The Scourge have detected engine vibrations and are returning to their vessel. The Drifter lifted off smoothly. Kael's hands were a blur, guiding the ship into the sky. Pursuit vector established, Odin reported. Scourge vessel is launching. Kael shot Lyra a grin. And here's the fun part. Strap in. As she secured herself in the co-pilot's chair, her eyes never left his. "You enjoy this," she said, a note of wonder in her voice. "The danger." "It's a human specialty," Kael shot back, punching the thrusters as they broke atmosphere. "We tend to run toward the fire." The stars blazed into view as the drifter leaped into the void. The Scourge ship a predatory insectoid shadow on their tail. "Captain, we are approaching a debris field," Odin announced as the Scourge ship gained on them. "The remnants of the Battle of Cygnus X1. I can plot a course around it." Kael's eyes shone with the reckless light that had gotten him out of 100 impossible situations. "No way. Take us straight through it." Lyra gripped the arms of her seat as the drifter plunged into the graveyard of ancient, shattered warships. Metal husks, some as small as fighters, others as large as cruisers, tumbled through the void. "The Scourge vessel is in pursuit," Odin reported. "They have superior firepower, but their design is less agile." "That's the idea," Kael grinned, his hands a blur on the controls. The drifter danced between drifting hulls and shattered engine blocks, sometimes with only meters to spare. Lyra watched him, transfixed by the focused intensity on his face. "You are extraordinary," she breathed. "Most pilots would flee from such a risk." "Most pilots aren't human," Kael shot back, executing a barrel roll that took them perilously close to the jagged edge of a derelict capital ship. "We have a talent for turning a bad hand into a winning one." Behind them, the Scourge ship fired. A bolt of green plasma sliced through the void. Kael yawed hard, but the beam clipped their stern. "Minor damage to the starboard stabilizer," Odin reported calmly. "Sustained high-velocity maneuvers are no longer advisable." "When have we ever been advisable?" Kael muttered, pushing the ship even harder. A massive ruined dreadnought loomed ahead. Instead of going around, Kael aimed for a narrow trench running along its spine. "Captain, the probability of navigating that fissure is—" "Stow it, Odin!" Kael's focus was absolute as he threaded the drifter through the gap. The Scourge ship followed, but its wider profile was its undoing. A sickening shriek of tearing metal echoed as its portside mandible clipped the wreckage, sending the ship into an uncontrolled, crippling spin. "Gotcha!" Kael pumped a fist. His victory was cut short as the ship shuddered and warning icons lit up the console. "Stabilizer has failed," Odin announced. "Repairs are necessary. I have identified a suitable landing site on Tyrannus, the fourth moon of the gas giant ahead." Kael swore. "Repair time? 4 standard hours, assuming you have the correct spare parts. The Scourge will have sent a recovery team by then," Lyra said, her crystalline markings pulsing with anxiety. The comm system chimed. "Incoming transmission," Odin said. "From the disabled Scourge vessel." Kael hesitated, then gave a curt nod. On screen, an insectoid face appeared, its multifaceted eyes burning with cold fury. It was Warlord Cathar. "Human," the Warlord's voice crackled, a series of clicks and guttural hisses. "I am Cathar of the Scourge Imperium. You possess stolen Imperial assets." "Don't see any assets here," Kael replied, his voice deceptively casual. "Just me and a passenger." Cathar's mandibles clicked in a gesture that might have been a sneer. "The female and the shard she carries are property of the Imperium. Return them and your reward will be a clean slate. All bounties wiped. A private moon in the Elysian cluster." Kael felt Lyra's stare. A clean slate was more valuable than credits. A private moon was a fantasy. "And if I say no?" Kael asked. "Then we will hunt you to the edge of the galaxy, tear your ship apart, and your death will be a lesson to all who defy us," Cathar hissed. "You have 1 hour." The screen went black. Silence. Kael guided the ship toward the barren moon of Tyrannus. "The offer is statistically significant," Odin observed, "far exceeding the likely reward from the Xylan Concordance." "I can do the math, Odin," Kael snapped. Lyra stood and walked to the main view screen. "You should take it," she said, her back to him. "It is the logical path." Kael came to stand beside her. "You think I'd sell you to a bunch of overgrown insects?" "It would be a rational choice," she said, her voice heavy with resignation. "My people have a saying, the lone star is the first to be consumed by the dark." "Yeah, well, humans have one too," Kael said, placing a hand on her shoulder and turning her to face him. "Logic doesn't pay the bills, and it sure as hell doesn't save people. I'm not giving you to them." The landing was rough, but Kael set the drifter down inside a deep crater. The moon's thin atmosphere was just breathable enough for short-term exposure. I will begin diagnostics, Odin announced. I calculate the Scourge will pinpoint our location in 2 hours. Then we'd better be quick, Kael said, grabbing his toolkit. Lyra shook her head. I will help. My people are engineers as well as artists. Outside, they worked under the ghostly light of the ringed gas giant. Lyra's slender fingers were surprisingly deft with his tools. Why did you refuse him? She asked, her voice soft in the near-silent vacuum. A clean slate is a dream for men like you. Kael finished tightening a bolt. Because some things are worth more. Like not being the kind of man who sells people. Like trying to do the right thing even when it's the stupid thing. Lyra's crystalline markings glowed warmly. Humans are a paradox. So new yet so bound by ancient codes of honor. Not all of us, Kael admitted. But the good ones try. They worked in a comfortable silence, a rhythm building between them. Kael found himself aware of her every move. Of the grace in her motions. In my culture, Lyra said, breaking the silence, a choice like that, honor over fortune, is cause for the ritual of devotion. Kael raised an eyebrow. Another bonding thing? The most profound, she confirmed, her voice taking on a husky tone that vibrated through his helmet comm. It is said those who complete the soul weave are joined forever, their spirits intertwined across time and space. Kael's mouth went dry. Sounds permanent. It is. Her amethyst eyes held his. When our work is done, perhaps I could demonstrate. Before Kael could formulate a response, Odin's voice crackled in his ear. Captain, an approaching vessel. Scourge signature, Kael swore. ETA, 18 minutes. We need more time, Lyra said, her hands flying over the repairs. Kael made a call. Odin, prep for emergency launch. We finish this and get airborne before they even touch down. As they raced against the clock, Kael's mind was split between the repairs and the promise of what might come after. Final connection sealed, Lyra announced. The stabilizer is online. Kael slammed the access panel shut and looked to the sky. A brilliant flare of light appeared as the Scourge ship began its descent. Captain, Odin said. Engines at 89%, shields at 71%. The Scourge vessel will touch down in 4 minutes. Kael and Lyra sprinted for the airlock. Inside, they removed their helmets. Lyra's azure skin was flushed, her markings pulsing with a rapid, anxious light. We launch now, he said, heading for the bridge. The Scourge are deploying troops, Odin reported. 8 soldiers, heavily armed. They will be at our position in 6 minutes. Kael dropped into the pilot's seat. Launch sequence. Launch requires 3 minutes, Odin replied. Their ground troops will intercept us, Kael swore, then looked at Lyra. I need a distraction. I'll go out, keep them busy. You get on the defensive cannons. Odin will walk you through it, her eyes widened. You intend to fight 8 Scourge elites? Just for 3 minutes, he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. He grabbed his plasma rifle. At the door, he paused. If I don't make it back, get the shard to your people. Don't wait. A storm of emotions crossed her face. Kael, 3 minutes, he said with a wink, then sealed his helmet and cycled the airlock. Outside, Kael took position behind a rock. Odin, suit comms. Lyra, you hear me? Yes, her voice was tight. I see them on the scope. Good. Wait for my mark, then fire 50 meters to their right. Drive them out of cover. He watched the 8 insectoid figures advance. Now, Lyra. The drifter's cannon fired, the bolt exploding and sending the Scourge scrambling. Kael fired 3 quick shots, pinning them down. Launch in 2 minutes, Odin's voice said in his ear. Kael, they're flanking left, Lyra warned. He rolled just as plasma bolts vaporized the rock he'd been behind. He fired back, then sprinted for new cover. 1 minute to launch, Odin updated. A Scourge soldier appeared on the rocks above him. Kael fired, hitting its center mass. The soldier fell, but not before its return shot grazed Kael's shoulder. Pain, hot and sharp, exploded through him. You're hit, Lyra cried. Just a scratch, he grunted. The ship's cannons fired again, and Kael used the opening to dash for the ship. 30 seconds, he was halfway there when an explosion sent him tumbling. Kael. I'm okay, he gasped, his visor cracked. 15 seconds, his leg buckled. A stray shot had compromised the knee joint of his suit. Air hissed out. 10 seconds, he dragged himself every meter in agony. 5 seconds. The airlock door hissed open. Lyra was there in a spare suit, pulling him inside with impossible strength. The door sealed just as Odin announced launch initiated. The drifter shuddered and ascended. Lyra helped him out of his helmet. "You are magnificent," she said, her markings pulsing with awe and terror. "Completely and utterly insane." Kael managed a pained grin. "It's a human thing." On the bridge, the Scourge ship was scrambling to pursue. "They will be airborne in 40 seconds, Odin reported. "Then we fight dirty," Kael said, sliding into his seat. "Lyra, get back on weapons." In a move of pure, calculated madness, Kael cut the main engines and flipped the drifter 180 degrees. So they were flying backward, weapons facing the pursuing ship. "Target their primary engine housing. Fire everything," he ordered. The drifter's cannons blazed. The shot struck the Scourge ship just as it lifted off, crippling it. "Direct hit," Lyra exclaimed. Kael grinned, spinning the ship back around and slamming the throttle. "That bought us some time." Odin, plot a course to the nearest jump point. As the stars blurred, Lyra came to his side. "You risked everything. For me." "Seemed like the right thing to do," he said, suddenly finding it hard to meet her gaze. Her cool fingers gently touched his injured shoulder. "Among my people, such a bond is sealed with the soul weave." Kael swallowed. "Is that right?" She nodded, her markings pulsing. "When we are safe, if you are willing, I will show you." The promise in her eyes made Kael think that getting shot was a small price to pay. "Captain," Odin's voice broke the spell. "We have evaded immediate pursuit. However, your shoulder wound requires medical attention." Kael laughed, wincing. "Thanks for killing the mood, Odin." Lyra smiled, her eyes never leaving his. "Rest, Kael Vance, heal. There will be time for us afterward." "That should hold," Kael said as Lyra finished applying a regenerative dermal patch to his shoulder. The drifter's medbay was compact but efficient. "Your physiology is remarkable," Lyra noted, her fingers lingering on his skin. "We heal fast," he smiled, "but we break easy." Captain Odin's voice came over the ship-wide comm. "I've intercepted encrypted chatter from the disabled Scourge vessel. They have alerted the fleet. 3 Imperium cruisers are converging on this sector. ETA of the first is 6 hours. Damn," Kael swore. "The resistance outpost is in the Callisto Nebula. That's an 8-hour run." "We need a place to go dark," Kael said, heading for the bridge. He pulled up a star chart. "There. The Thorn Belt, an uncharted asteroid field. Dense enough to scramble our signature." "And you can navigate it?" Lyra asked. "I've hidden from worse in tighter spots," he grinned. As he set the course, Lyra stood beside him. "While we wait," she said softly, "I should tell you about the Genesis shard." She led him to the small common area, and they sat on the bench, knees touching. "My people, the Xylans, were once a peaceful consortium of worlds," she began. "We believed all life was linked by a cosmic resonance. The shard is an amplifier of that connection." She took out the artifact. In the dim light, it pulsed with a life of its own. The Scourge discovered it could also be used to amplify their hive mind telepathy. They turned our symbol of unity into a tool of conquest. And if you get it back, in the right hands, it can be used to sever their control, to reawaken the worlds they've subjugated. Her amethyst eyes met his. Its power responds to the will of the wielder, and it responds most powerfully to a bond between two beings. She took his hand, placing it alongside hers on the shard. A jolt, warm and electric, shot up Kael's arm. "The starfield inside the shard flared. What was that?" he asked. "It recognizes the bond between us," Lyra explained, her markings pulsing in sync with the shard. "The life debt. This is why the soul weave is so crucial. It focuses the shard's power." Kael felt an irresistible pull toward her. "This ritual, the soul weave," her free hand came up to cup his cheek. "It is a joining, a sharing of self, of thought, of memory, of spirit." Her face was inches from his. "A communion of souls, expressed through the body. That," Kael said, his voice husky, "sounds very compatible with human customs." "I had hoped it would be," she whispered and closed the distance. Their lips met. The kiss was a cascade of new sensations. The shard flared between their hands, and Kael felt a disorienting, wonderful sense of her consciousness brushing against his own. When they parted, he was breathless. "That," Lyra whispered, her eyes luminous, "was only the preface." The ship shuddered, and Odin's voice cut in. "Captain, we have entered the Thorn Belt. I am also detecting an anomalous energy surge. The artifact is interfering with our sensor suite." "It's responding to our connection," Lyra said, looking at the shard. "The Scourge cruisers have changed course," Odin interrupted. They are tracking the energy signature. Its output has increased by 400% in the last 10 minutes. Kael swore. So much for hiding. Lyra's expression grew determined. There is another way. If we complete the soul weave, the shard's power will peak. I can use that surge to project a ghost signal, to lead them on a false trail. You can do that? With you, she said, her grip tightening on his hand. A human and a Xylan. Our bond is unprecedented. It is creating something new. Kael looked at her at the impossible chance she was offering. How long does this ritual take? He asked, a slow smile spreading across his face. Lyra's smile matched his. Long enough to be memorable. Not so long that we'll be caught. Kael stood, pulling her to her feet. Odin, maintain course. Alert us if the Scourge get within an hour's range. Understood, Captain, the AI replied. Although I must note that your cardiovascular and neuroelectric readings are currently... Odin, mute internal audio, Kael commanded. Engage privacy protocols. As the AI went silent, Kael turned back to Lyra. Now, he said, drawing her close. Show me this soul weave. Kael awoke to the hum of the ship and the warm, solid weight of Lyra beside him. The Genesis shard rested between them, its inner light now a calm, steady glow. The soul weave had been everything, a fusion of body and mind where his memories had mingled with her own ancient alien consciousness. He felt as if he'd known her for 1,000 years. Captain, Odin's voice said softly, we are approaching the coordinates for the Callisto Nebula. 20 minutes, Lyra stirred. Good morning, she murmured. Morning, he replied. We're almost there. Her smile faded. The shard, it is agitated. Something is wrong ahead. On the bridge, the nebula was a magnificent tapestry of color. Odin, any Scourge contacts? Negative, Captain. The ghost signal was successful. However, the Resistance base's communication protocols have been altered. Something is wrong, Lyra said, clutching the shard. As they approached the hollowed-out asteroid that served as the base, the lack of patrol ships was unnerving. Incoming transmission, Odin announced. A male Xylan appeared. Lyra of Xylos, he said stiffly. You have the shard. His eyes flickered to Kael. And a human. Venerable Corin, Lyra replied. This is Captain Kael Vance. He saved me. You are both welcome, Corin said. Proceed to Docking Bay 3. The transmission cut. Not exactly a warm welcome, Kael noted. The docking bay was silent. 2 guards escorted them to a massive central chamber. Dozens of Xylans stood in rigid formation, their markings dim. At the far end of the hall beside Venerable Corin stood Warlord Cathar. Welcome home, Lyra, Cathar clicked. And Captain Vance, how thoughtful of you to deliver my property back to me. Kael's hand went to his plasma rifle, but Lyra's grip on his arm was iron. The base is compromised, she whispered. They are under Scourge control, not all of us, a voice shouted. A small group of Xylans emerged from an alcove, their markings bright with defiance. They used a discordance engine, a copy of the shard, to take control. A minor problem, Cathar sneered. Now that I have the original, the shard, if you please, Lyra's whisper was urgent. Kael, our bond, the soul weave, it changed the shard. If we connect again, I can break their hold. What do you need? He asked. Touch the shard with me. Focus on our bond, on what we shared. As Cathar's patience wore thin, Kael placed his hand over Lyra's. The shard blazed with a blinding white light. What is this? Cathar demanded. The controlled Xylans stirred, their markings flickering. It's working, Lyra breathed. But I need more. I need all of it. Kael focused, pouring every ounce of his protective, defiant, passionate spirit into their connection. The shard responded with a shockwave of pure, harmonious energy. The controlled Xylans gasped as their markings flared back to vibrant life. No! Cathar shrieked, drawing his weapon. That's the thing about us humans, Kael grinned. We have a knack for screwing up the plans of empires. The freed Xylans turned on the Scourge soldiers. Cathar fired at Kael, but a shield of light from the shard deflected the blast. Kael and Lyra fought back to back, their movements perfectly in sync. A dance of human improvisation and Xylan grace. When it was over, Cathar was disarmed and on his knees. Venerable Corin approached, his eyes full of awe. The shard has never been so powerful. Your bond with a human, it has unlocked its true potential. Lyra smiled up at Kael. Humans have a way of exceeding expectations. In the days that followed, The resistance was reborn. The newly empowered shard was used to send a wave of liberation across the subjugated worlds. Kael found himself at home, fighting for a cause bigger than himself. One evening, Lyra found him on an observation deck. "The Concordance has asked me to become the new shard bearer," she said. "To lead our people." Kael's heart sank, but he nodded. "That's where you belong." "Yes," she agreed, taking his hand. "But the shard requires balance. It is strongest with our bond." Her markings pulsed. "They have asked you to stay." "As my bonded partner," Kael stared. "Me, a human?" Lyra's crystal bell laugh filled the space. "Who better? You have shown us what humanity can be. Courageous, resilient," she touched his face. "And you have shown me that the strongest bonds are not defined by species but by spirit." Kael pulled her close, the shard pulsing between them in perfect time with their hearts. "When you put it that way," he said, "how could I possibly refuse?" He kissed her, and as he did, he knew the Scourge would be back. But this time, they wouldn't just be facing the Xylans. They'd be facing humanity too. And that, Kael thought, would be their final, fatal mistake.